Hello, welcome to the channel. I'm so excited for you to join the Soul Fam. This week's theme, we're diving into the power of saying no and honoring your boundaries. So before we do that deep dive, let's start by tuning in. And I invite you to take a nice deep breath in and out. At any given moment during this chat, feel free to get comfortable. Grab a tea, grab a coffee, grab something to drink, get comfortable in your seat, and always trust yourself. Always tune into yourself and do what feels right for you. Okay? If that means checking out of this video altogether, you do that. Okay? So, setting boundaries, saying no. I'll start with our story time and why it's so significant for me as probably one of the most important events of my life as far as relationships goes, is because up until that point, I have lived a life that is very much being a people pleaser and thinking that relationships is all about, getting the other person to like you, staying on their good side, meeting their needs, being willing to sacrifice, at the expense of your own boundaries and your own needs. Just had a lot of these ingrained systems around how to show up in relationships, and I feel like for the most part I showed up in a way that was very people pleasing, very performative, and I wasn't always accessing my authentic self. And it's not to say that in all my relationships that's the case, but I would find myself easily moving into that space until I felt like I had the permission to be myself, as opposed to showing up with authenticity, if that makes sense. I have the pleasure of having such amazing people in my life that are so wonderful to me and for me, honestly. And what had happened is that we had made plans, and just a note, I am terrible. I don't know if it's brain fog, I don't know what it is, but if I don't write things down, if it's not like in an agenda, if it's not in the calendar, I forget it. And I've had the bad tendency in the last little bit, which I'm working on now, bad tendency of over, booking myself and saying like, yes, somebody's like, oh, should we meet up here? Should we do that? Da, da, da. I'm like, yes. And I would just say yes to everything and then look at my schedule and be like, how can I possibly do this? And I would just tell myself, well, you haven't seen that person in a while and they asked to see you. So I almost felt like, I owe it to them, to the relationship, to show up and stuff. So it's like, I'm tired, I'm overworked, I'm overwhelmed, but I am going to show up anyways because that's what you do. You have to sacrifice. And she had reached out to me the day of the day that we were supposed to meet up, and she said that she wanted to cancel. But I think it was more than that. It's the fact that she provided, she was very vulnerable in her expressing herself. She went on to explain why she needed to take the time, and was just like, it's not, I've just had a rough day and I would love to see you, but not in this current mind space. Like, I need this time right now for myself. And it was so significant to me, the fact that she had expressed that in that way and she had been willing to be vulnerable with me, because how many times have I either shown up when I knew that I shouldn't just because I was not feeling right, or I made an excuse for why I couldn't go. And in doing that and making the excuse kind of, again, that performative, or creating this false image of myself, as opposed to being like, listen, it's been a rough one. It's been a rough one and I need a timeout. So her being able to model that behavior to me It meant everything, because it's like, it was like, and people modeling behavior is one of the biggest ways that we as humans learn. You know, you think of like small children, like they learn by watching and observing and then doing themselves. And so a lot of our patterns that are ingrained in us, like it came from certain patterns and certain things that we saw growing up. And so when someone's able to shift and change that narrative by showcasing a different model of behavior, it does everything. Giving yourself, and sometimes you have to be that person that models that behavior, because by showing yourself that you matter, by showing yourself that you are worthy of having your needs met, worthy of having your boundaries respected, you are enforcing that inner self. You are enforcing and reinforcing your own self-worth. And so that was like, and I've told her when I've seen her, just like how grateful I am for her being able in that moment to be vulnerable with me. And I think it really helped deepen and set the tone for the kind of relationship we were going to have. And more and more I seek those relationships. Like I understand that you're probably not going to be able to have that with everyone, and that's fine. But to be able to have relationships where you can actually authentically show up and be like, hey, this is what's up right now with me. And I was just really grateful for that. So grateful. And it made me think of like other areas in my life where I was potentially people pleasing, other areas in my life. A little wonky with the camera there. Sorry about that. Just other areas in my life where I was not reinforcing a boundary. And it happened recently where I moved, okay, in a new space. So I moved to a new space and I didn't give myself time to really settle in. I didn't give myself time to do that transition. And, you know, it takes time to establish a new routine. It takes time to just get familiar with a new way of being and a way of doing things. And I was feeling super overwhelmed. I was traveling back and forth between this place and my old one. And like at times, like forgetting my toothbrush or forgetting, you know, clothes. And then I'd just be like, just the flow of my day was off, and just sleeping at any odd time. Like I just had zero routine, on top of just feeling completely like destabilized. And then while I'm doing that, still trying to meet all of my other expectations, still trying to do all the other things. So I ended up taking some time off from work so I can just focus. And I took like a day to just create a schedule for the week and just be like, what are the things that I need to do? You know, laundry. What are the things that I need to do to be able to function as a human? Because when you're overwhelmed and dysregulated, like that affects every aspect of your life. I was cranky. I was anxious and more snappy in my relationships, I find. And I never want to stay in that space. You know what I mean? I never want to stay in that space where I am not honoring myself, so much so that I am no longer showing up as my authentic self. And I had to be able to communicate first and foremost to myself that, hey, I need time. I need to respect my time boundaries. And that probably looks like, you know, not going out, or looks like, you know, being more strict about my schedule, but this is what I need so that I can wake up in the morning and have time after my shower to like put lotion on. Like how many times I just like run out of the house, like I don't have time, and then you have cracked heels because you didn't put like moisturize your feet and stuff. Or just sometimes like leaving the house and my hair is not like fully brushed or fully done, and just like not having like the confidence, or just like being able to put a little something on the face so that when I turn around and look at the mirror, you know, I'm not like haggard. And everyone has different preferences as far as like makeup and styling and stuff like that. You don't have to wear makeup to look good or feel good about yourself or do your hair. But I was just finding like I was getting used to this way of life where I was showing up in all these places, but like not as the version of myself that I wanted to be, and not taking the time to listen to my body and to honor myself and to take care of myself in the way that I wanted to take care of myself, you know. And it's like, where is that time going? Like, what am I doing with that time? And then when you feel so overwhelmed and you don't feel like you can do anything, so then you're just like binge watching TV and stuff like that. So I was just in that weird vicious cycle, and I needed to take that moment and pull away from that little hamster wheel rat race and really draw the line and say, hey, I am not honoring myself right now. I need to be able to say no. No, I can't see you right now. No, this is not a good time. No. So that I could say yes to myself. Yes, I am gonna wake up, go to bed very early so I can wake up so I can have a good night's sleep and wake up early enough to get a workout in. Yes, I'm going to do a little bit of meal prep so I have more time to dedicate to my passions and my dreams. And yes, I'm going to take the time after I shower to really, you know, put some lotion on and take care of my skin and look good, because when I look good, I feel good and I'm more confident, and I want to be that version of myself. And I owe it to myself to be that version of myself. And that is something in dating that I have learned from the men that I've dated, because they were some of the men that I've dated, at least the more notable ones, not that the other ones are not notable, I don't know why I said that, in terms of like time, in terms of like people that I've like. And when I did date them, for people who are into astrology, it was during the time where Saturn was in my 7th house. So those relationships brought on more Saturnian themes. And they were very strict men. They just were, in the way that like they were rigid in certain ways. Like it was their way or the highway in many ways. And I used to bend over, that's like not a great thing to say. And you're talking about like, I don't know, creates visuals. That's not in that sense. I just meant like they were like, this is what I do and this is how I do it. And like, I don't leave my house, and I walk my dog at this time, and I work, and you know what I mean? Like, they had their lifestyle set. And it was like, how are you going to fit into my lifestyle? And because I still very much so had like those people-pleasing tendencies and that like anxious, you know, way of being, I would try and see like, how do I fit in? And if it's like, even if it was a time that inconvenienced me, like I didn't even think in terms of like what was inconvenient to me, because my whole focus was, I just want them to like me. I just want them to like me. I just want this to turn into like my happily ever after. I want this to be, you know, a good relationship. So yeah, I'm whatever you want me to do. I can be flexible. And bending for another person while never really either getting like, and it's not even about getting the reciprocity. They don't have to bend over backwards for me, but it was clearly I wasn't honoring myself or having any real set of boundaries. But seeing how much they respected their own boundaries. I think that was a lesson and is a lesson for me as far as, well, why, like, I had to learn that. I had to, not necessarily to be like so rigid in those same ways, but I had to learn, like, I had like, while they where they had zero bend, I had too much bend, right? Like I had to like grow that ability to say no, and I had to grow that ability to really set real boundaries for myself. Boundaries is you showing up for you. Your boundaries is you showing like respect for yourself. Boundaries is where you honor your self-worth. Facts. Boundaries is where you honor your self-worth. And so if you never establish a boundary, if somebody feels like, you know, whatever I say or whatever I do, they're going to go with it, then you're kind of setting yourself up to be in a situation where that person is not going to like value you. And I would find myself in this situation like, why aren't these people respecting me in terms of like these dating situations? And it's like, well, I wasn't respecting myself. It's just point blank, period. And at the end of the day, I feel like if somebody wants to be an asshole, like that's on them. Like that's on them. You can't make someone be an asshole. If somebody's going to be acting in a way that's unsavory, that's their responsibility as a human, as how they want to show up. But it is not true that you cannot be firm in your boundaries and have loving, authentic relationships. And I think as women, we are often told that we have to show up a certain way to be liked. We have to be soft and feminine in a way that is appealing to the male gaze. And, you know, you can only show your woes and your vices after the fact, after they put a ring on it, after they've established a relationship. But like, why would you want to be in a relationship? Why would you want to be married to someone who doesn't honor or respect you? Wouldn't you rather show up authentically as yourself and see how that person receives you, as opposed to put on a mask and be performative, and then once you like have them once you've locked them in, then you show your true colors? It's like counterintuitive. And so if you owe it to yourself to show up for yourself. You owe it to yourself to create those spaces in your own life where you can be able to meet your needs and respect your boundaries, and the right relationships are going to honor that. And for me, a big thing with that is taking time, honoring my schedules, honoring my commitments to myself, honoring my time, honoring my commitments to myself. You know, if I said that I'm going to go to bed at 9 o'clock, no, if you text me at 9:30 saying that like you're available to see each other, like, sorry, buddy, it's my bedtime is 9, so 9. Like my bedtime is 9, so 9. I'm not getting out of bed so I can see you. Good for you that that's the only time you're available. I'm not. So, you know what I mean? Like before I would have been like, oh, like how can I squeeze in? And it's like, you have to think of what you are willing to lose to potentially be liked by that person. Because it's not even a guarantee that you'll do all that and they'll like you. Facts. So what are you willing to lose? Like I look back like years ago, and you know, Kovu, my dog, he grew so fast. And during the time where I got him, I was dating somebody at that point, and I was so stressed with that relationship. I was so overwhelmed. I was crying like almost every day. And it's sad because I think back at those moments and it's like so little of that time period when I look back on it, and my focus, like the thoughts are around like my little puppy, my brand new puppy that I should have been like enjoying, and like I did not hold him enough. I feel I did not spend like I wish I had spent more time like doing research, more time on his training. Like, I never going to get that time back. Like, your life, you are never going to get that time back. Even if you believe in reincarnation, you'll reincarnate, but not be this version of you again. And so wasting your time chasing after people for validation, chasing after people because you want them to like you, as opposed to pouring into yourself and trusting that the right people will show up for you, the right people will understand, the right people will honor you. Like, you don't want to be in that space where you're looking back and you're like, I cannot believe I gave this person or this situation my time, because I'm never getting this time back. And deep down, you know, like, you have that intuition. You know when your boundaries have been crossed. You know when it's time to go. You just know. And you stay anyways because of this false promise that this person's going to change or the situation is going to change. And the person that suffers at the end of the day is you. When you get to that point when you cannot recognize yourself because you're so far up another person's reality, you've just become a pawn in somebody else's life as opposed to the queen, king of yours. You're not living your life anymore. And you are so deserving and worthy of living your life. And so be selfish. Selfish is not a bad word. And sometimes we come from certain backgrounds where selfish is like, as the yucky word. Because it's all about sacrifice. And it's all about like everybody else. But when the sacrifice is you, and the sacrifice is your integrity, what are you teaching yourself? What are you saying to yourself every day? If you can't even take the time to eat breakfast, what are you telling yourself? If you don't have time to brush your own hair, you're telling yourself you don't matter enough. And that's why it is important to create those spaces, to create this block of time. Even if you start and you're just like, I'm gonna take 5 minutes for myself today. Take those 5 minutes. I wanna do a 15-minute workout. Schedule a 15-minute workout. I have all these like big emotions that are coming up for me. I need a way to like express it. Take a few minutes to journal. Be willing to go there with yourself. You owe it to yourself. And so take the 15 minutes that you need to journal. Take the 20 minutes to do the workout. Take the 5-10 minutes to do your hair, or book that hour for your hair wash as your self-care moment. Whatever it is that you need for yourself, don't get so lost in all the external facets of yourself, all the other relationships in your life, that you lose you. There's only ever going to be one you, ever, and there's so much beauty and there's so much like value in that. There's ever only going to be just one you. So please take care of you and trust that when you are feeling like You need to take time off. You need to take time for yourself. You need to honor your boundaries. Listen. And so I'm going to be on my website putting a few journal prompts, a little bit of breathwork exercises in addition to the blog of the week. So feel free to check that out if you want a few self-care tips and journal prompts and breathwork. In addition to that, feel free to follow on Instagram, where there is some fun content, as well as the Trust Fall Tuesday challenge, where I invite you to trust yourself a little bit more with a little weekly challenge. So join the community there. And of course, until next time, for our next weekly chat, and I appreciate you so much. Thank you, Soul Fam. Feel free to comment, like, subscribe. I would love to know how you're honoring yourself in terms of boundaries, your story times, and when you've come to certain realizations as far as, you know, the need to say no or to establish a boundary. Have you also struggled with certain people-pleasing tendencies? Feel free to let me know in the comments down below, and I love you.